Welcome to Tea Time with Sue. In this episode, Sue Thomas sits down with Zac Burden, Assistant Director of Residence Life and member of Kirksville City Council. Zac came to Truman as a student in 1999 and has been a fixture on campus and in the community ever since. After receiving a degree in history, he started working in residence life, which includes a 15-year stint as a director of Missouri Hall. They also discuss his love of spreadsheets and Legos, as well as his favorite teas. Let's jump into the conversation.
So, Josh.
Hey!
Welcome to Tea Time with Sue.
Very kind of you, Sue, to use my alter ego name.
Yeah, you want to talk about that and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Zac, but
Yes,
my
it
entire
is.
life, people have called me Josh, and I cannot explain that one. It started when I was a kid in school. I can remember a substitute teacher whom I never met before, but she started calling me Josh one day.
Okay.
And throughout my entire life, people I've known for a long time or for a short time have done that. Different people I've worked with at Truman for decades will just out of the blue call me
Really?
Josh. I got a text the other day from a former colleague of mine from Truman who I'm still good friends with, and I know her two little boys, and the littlest one said, "When is Josh going to come visit?" And they got it all figured out, and they realized he was talking about me. So a strange thing, and it just is enough for a smile every time it happens.
Well, so I have to say, I never thought about calling you Josh.
Well,
but
I appreciate
maybe in
that.
the future, I need to start calling you
We'll
Josh
see how
rather
it
than
rolls there.
Zac.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I would love to go back into a second degree and do something in linguistics and psychology and see what is happening in people's minds
what
there.
is about
What's the
Josh?
intersection on that's going for it? Because I've also found out that it's not unique to me. There are other Zacs who've experienced similar things. So
Okay, so our linguistics faculty,
exactly.
if they have any ideas about
Would appreciate your help on this
Yes.
immensely.
All right, so Zac,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am the Assistant Director of Residence Life here at Truman. I'm a proud Truman State University graduate. I came to Kirksville and the institution back in 1999. I wanted to be a high school social studies teacher, so I have graduated with
Why?
my degree because I think civics is so important in our country, and to be able to help people connect on that and really value it not as this thing that I have to study in school, but recognizing that you are a participant in an active democratic society. I think it's a really important and often missed opportunity in our school systems, and I really wanted to do that. But I started working for Residence Life in college and ended up becoming the Missouri Hall director during graduate school and took the building through its renovation, and I loved working there for 15 years. So I find that I get to use my teaching degree in various other ways here at the university and around the community. But yeah, that's what brought me originally to Kirksville was to be a high school social studies teacher.
So you found a new passion at Truman.
I did. Exactly. And isn't that just what a liberal arts education should be about?
You
Exploring
got
some
it.
different opportunities and seeing how you can make some new connections out of it. It's been a phenomenal experience, and one that I did not predict, but my parents did. When they first moved me to Kirksville, they said, "Oh, we're never going to get you back. You're going to love this town. You're going to love this university, and you will never leave." And they were just kidding, but they were actually spot on with it there, and it was neat to find those unique opportunities here.
So they had some sense, even at the very beginning of you coming here.
Exactly. If you come to my office in Missouri Hall, you'll find all these really cool historical things in the office. These are gifts that my parents have picked up from me over the years with the hopes that they would be in my eventual social studies classroom and that I would move back to Kansas City. But they make lovely decorations in my office here in Residence Life.
So is that why you're so good at the tours you give of campus? I mean, you are almost world-renowned, I dare say,
Very
about
kind.
your Truman tours.
Yeah, when I first came to Truman, I really felt like I needed to know the place, and I didn't know its story. I knew what had been talked about as part of the admissions process. I knew what my friends who had gone to the institution had talked about, so I had a sense of what that was. But for me, knowing the story is knowing the history. And I started by reading cornerstones around campus and starting to figure out how old some of the buildings were. But it wasn't too long into my freshman year where I am hunkered down in third floor of Pickler Memorial Library and Special Collections, and they are pulling files out to show me different things and to learn about it. And so, yeah, I just really started wanting to learn that history. And then it struck me that we didn't talk about it an awful lot. And I felt that there was an opportunity for us to all be more engaged in who we are as Truman if I could help us have some of those conversations. So that's been a personal pet project passion of mine over the last 2 decades, is giving those tours and helping people to really be proud of the legacy that Truman has and that they're a part of that legacy.
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
Yes.
And it's very cool because you bring it to life as you go around to all the buildings.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's neat to be able to walk around and build chronologically a story out, but thematically a story out. It's a story very much of Northeast Missouri. It's a story of our state. It's a story of our nation. But it's also a unique Truman story that is pretty grand.
Now, you also have a second job.
Yes.
Do tell.
Yeah, so a second job. I was involved in some service organizations here in Kirksville, and there was a couple years ago, there was an opportunity to pass a sales tax to help better fund our parks and recreation system. And I got asked to come on as part of the media team for that, and really enjoyed working with those group of individuals and those service club members who were making that possible, and attending city council meetings and learning more about what was going on in the city of Kirksville. And that was an amazing experience for me. And we're getting back to my social studies teacher roots at that point, to where I just kept going to the meetings afterwards. And after several weeks of that, I thought, I think I could offer something to the city council. I think I could be of service to this community. And I had made plans to then run the following April. It just so happened that August that there was a resignation on the council, and I put my name in the ring and said, hey, you'd be interested in appointing me to the council. So I took an appointed seat, and then that April 2019, ran for election to the Kirksville City Council, and was both humbled and honored to have won that election. So I've been serving ever since. The council, the way that the type of government that Kirksville has, the council, the 5 members each year amongst themselves select who will be the mayor. So I've also been really honored to have been selected as the mayor each of those years.
So what's it like to run for an office in Kirksville?
It's a pretty amazing experience. I used the word humbling earlier, too. It is remarkable to see people who are willing to vouch for you out in the community. I feel like I've gotten to know so many people in Kirksville over the years, but I don't know everybody. And when people were willing to say things like, let me take a yard sign for you because I want to tell everyone why you should vote for Zac, that meant a lot. To have people sharing things on Facebook or testimonials, or hey, I talked to a friend of mine, that was really special. I didn't know if it was all working, though. I've never run for public office before, and this is now my tradition because I've run in 2 elections now. On election day itself, I stand at the corner of Baltimore and Illinois Street with one of my signs holding it up. And the number of people who pulled over and said, hey, we've never met, but I voted for you and I want to let you know, was the first indication I thought that maybe this was going to happen and it was going to work out. So it was an amazing experience. I loved getting to interact with the people of our community because particularly during an election season, you can ascertain what are their needs and their hopes for our community. It's a great time to solicit that information. So I feel like I got to know Kirksville a whole lot better through the election process. I think I know it even better now having served, but the election process is a great way to learn about the community.
Cool. So are there any connections between what you do at Truman and what you do as the mayor and on city council?
I would say so. I think about all of my years working as a residence hall director. It was about building strong communities that supported people, made them feel welcome, and made them want to actively participate in what was going on. When I first became a hall director, I can remember my mom saying she didn't know how to explain that to people, what it is that I did. And she used to joke that, well, he's kind of the mayor of a small town. He's got a post office, and there's a restaurant in the town, and all these other things that take care of it. And I think about a lot how the work that I did in residence halls and continue to work with in residence life really influences the work that we get to do within the city of Kirksville, particularly when it's about what are the values that we want to hold as a community, and how do we set those expectations and then meet them? That's something that we do on day one with our students here in the residence halls. What do they want to see their community be, and how are we going to get there? And as a council member and a mayor, that's part of my priorities with the city as well. So I feel very lucky to have had those experiences working at Truman, working in residence life, and being able to equate those to the work that I get to do with the city.
Okay, so you have Truman Town, you have Kirksville Town, but I hear you also have a teeny little town that you've built from the time you were little.
there are these things where you start to look back and you go, maybe I was thinking about being mayor all along. My sister and I growing up, my sister Ashley is also a proud Truman State University graduate.
Yay.
She has her Master of Arts in Education and is a teacher in the Blue Springs School District. When we were growing up, we played pretty much exclusively with Legos. Those were our big things. And so we loved to purchase anything that was part of a town set. And over the years, and I mean years, we built out a town, and everyone had a job and a role and a house and a car and the ways to go with it there. And we'd act out these different scenes and scenarios and everything happening with it. And I'm still a Lego fan. When I was a kid, the old Lego advertisement was Zac, he's a Lego maniac. And that definitely held true for me. So, yeah, continue to pick up sets over the years and add to that little town.
So the town exists currently?
Well, it's interesting.
In parts?
It's in parts. It's all still there. I spent years living in a residence hall, 20 years living on campus, but I purchased a home 3 years ago. I live 4 blocks away from the campus now. I moved real far. We're neighbors, right?
We are.
So we're very close by each other there. And my house, built in 1939, has a coal room in it from where the coal would have come in for the coal-fired furnace. They don't have a coal-fired furnace anymore, so the coal room is now the Lego storage room. So nicely indexed and boxed and everything else there, so can build out sets as I want to.
Have you watched Lego Masters? I was looking for something to play in the background
Sure.
when I work, and I happened upon Lego Masters, which is a super cool show that's amazing what you can build with Legos. Have you
I've
ever
seen clips
it?
from it, and a lot of folks talk about it as a pretty fantastic show. So that's definitely on the list of things to pick up and watch here pretty soon, because people have been very impressed with it.
Well, and they had siblings who...
Oh, did they?
So perhaps you and your sister should think about
All right, Ashley, if you're
perhaps
watching,
going
we've got
on.
something
There
new
you
to
go.
do. There we
Lego
go.
Masters for you. Okay, so other kinds of things that you might do that people are very surprised about, right, or haven't ever imagined when they think about you. Tell me about some musical talent you have. Or had. Maybe you want to say had.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't think once you have it, it goes.
That's true. That's definitely true. I was in the orchestra as a kid growing up. I played the string bass. I started in the 5th grade in my school district. That's when the strings program gets started. When I was in kindergarten, I can remember that right outside the kindergarten classroom is where the strings students would practice. And so even as a very young kid in the school district, you had this goal in mind that I want to be one of those strings players. And that's why I think it's so neat to message and showcase those things at any point in somebody's educational journey to be able to see that, because I can recognize that happening. And I sat down on the first day in the 5th grade, and they said, we're going to have you play violin. I mean, I wasn't this tall in the 5th grade, but I was still a big kid. And I said, I don't know if that's really the best place for me. Maybe that big, tall instrument over there. Could I play the string bass? So they got me started on that one. And it was a fantastic experience. I loved it. I loved playing, went all the way through high school on that one. It was great to play in concerts and to be in the pit orchestra for things.
Sure.
And for me, it ended up being a Truman connection. It was Jill Meyer, the principal bass player. She was a senior, and she was just the coolest person I knew. Right? I looked up to her so much my first year in high school. And her older brother, Jim, was going to Truman and was getting his degree in education through the MAE. And she said, if you want to be a teacher, Truman is where you need to be. And that was what really turned me on to looking at Truman. And Jim was one of the first contestants on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and all those sorts of things. And it meant a lot to me. So to get an endorsement from Jill Meyer, who I looked up to, because she had a sibling who was going to school here and recognized what a great place it was.
So can you still play?
I think I can play in my dreams. I still have dreams that I'm late to the concert and I can't find my music. But I haven't played in over 20 years. But now that I own this home off campus, there's a room that one of these days I think I'm going to purchase a string bass and be nice to get back into it there.
Cool.
One of my good friends is Jamie Matthews, the president of our alumni association, and she's a string bass player too. So we joke about, she's very talented string bass player. She plays in her orchestra down in Arizona. And I'd love to be able to jam with Jamie when she comes in for Truman weekends. That'd be good.
Now, people might be surprised, right? Musician, right? They don't think about numbers and those kinds of things, although I know having a son who's a musician, numbers tie very directly into music. But you are a huge fan of spreadsheets.
I wish I'd brought,
Really?
yeah, really. It's a thing. I wish, we've got our teapot here today. I
Yes.
wish I'd brought my cup that I drink tea from every day in the office. It says, "Ooh, I think this calls for a spreadsheet." And there's just so many things that I do in my daily job that is about finding ways to do some data analysis, or how can we personalize something out that makes it more special for someone. And a lot of that is about manipulating some data and getting some spreadsheets to make that all work. That's one of the things I've really gotten to enjoy in my 3 years working in our main office in residence life is how can I bring some efficiencies to some things through some spreadsheets, and thanks to Google Sheets, how can one talk to another and make it all go work out there? It's been pretty neat to see that all work. We just came off of our student advisor hiring for next year, and that is a series of many spreadsheets talking to each other and coming together so we can make some smart, informed, data-driven decisions on hiring. And now we're getting ready for our summer camps and conferences, which is all based out in our spreadsheets and making that happen. So I'm always excited to be able to use those, but it is definitely my nerdiest moment there, and I'll fully embrace it.
Okay, so you mentioned your teacup.
Yes.
Okay, so clearly we like tea on this show.
Well,
but I hear
one of the
you
reasons I'm a
love
big
tea,
fan. I do love a
right?
good cup of tea, yes.
You got a favorite?
I love the Republic of Tea's Mango Ceylon. It's not
Huh.
particularly fruit flavored, but it's a very smooth tea. I like that one a lot. Then my other one is the Orange Spice Tea from the Stash Tea Company, which a Truman professor held an event one year when I was in college, and he had got some of that tea at it. And it was Dr. Dennis Levins. And I said, "Dennis, where did you get this tea?" And I still drink that one a lot too. So come by my office, lots of tea to drink from.
Okay, I was going to ask how you found these.
Oh, yeah, just different
They're not
times.
local brands.
Well, we used to be able to purchase the Republic of Tea at Edna Campbell Bookstore when it was around, so I love to be
okay.
able to do that. But anymore, it's about some online orders, and it's kind of like Christmas morning when the big box of teas shows up for either the office or at home.
Right.
It's time for another order at home, but the office is well stocked right now.
All right. Okay, so there's one other thing that I think people would be really surprised to hear about
Sure.
with you, right? And that's tell me about your passion for meteorology.
I have no regrets about the life that I've chosen. I really love how my career path at Truman has worked out, and I will be someone who retires from the institution. I know that I'm a lifetime employee here at the university. But if someone were going to force me to go back and take a different course, quite seriously, I think I would have gone to school for meteorology, and I think I would have really enjoyed being a TV weather personality. I think that could have been fun. It would have been a neat way to serve a community in a very different way. We grew up very weather conscious in our family. I think my love of maps may have started by looking at the different watches and warning maps and identifying the counties and where they all are. But I just think that would have been a neat way to bring my skills into a different way to do some things. So that would have been a whole lot of fun. Not the route I want to go, but if somebody's going to make me do it, well, I'd love to be coming to you live via somewhere. Tell me all about the weather.
So you like the TV part of it?
I think that would be interesting. I get told a lot that I've got a great voice for radio. No one ever says I have a face for television, but we'd still try it out there.
You do.
Well, it's very kind, but I think it'd be fun to be part of a media personality like that.
Okay, so think about your job here at Truman.
Yeah.
Think about being mayor. You've done all kinds of cool things, right? And maybe it doesn't have to do with either of them. Do you have anything on your bucket list? Are there things you either want to do here or do in Kirksville, or maybe something totally outside both of them?
Yeah, I think about a lot of different things that are on the when I get to it list, right? So when you're talking about a bucket list, that's exactly what we're thinking of. I'm not someone who would call myself a cyclist. I'm someone who likes to ride my bicycle, and I think there's a difference between those two. Cyclists do it quickly. I go to the grocery store at a very slow speed on my bicycle. But I would love to do some longer trips. I really enjoy getting to bike on the Katy Trail, so I think being able to do the entire trail across the state would be a lot of fun.
That's pretty long.
Pretty long, so as we talked about, I'm pretty slow, so it would take a number of days, so I'll have to save up some vacation for that. But I think about how neat it is to experience some of our communities in the state of Missouri that way. We go to what used to be the front door of these towns when you're on the Katy Trail. It's where the railroad used to pull in.
Right.
And it may not be the front part of town. You can think about here in Kirksville, where was the front of town where the train station was located, and what does that look like today? So it's a neat way to see a community. So I think about things like that, or planning a trip via bicycle back to my family in Kansas City. Again, it would take some time because I'm pretty slow. But those are some things I would love to try out.
Are you slow on your bike?
I may not be very fast, Sue. I may not be. But you'll recognize me because I've got the state of Missouri flag flying off the back of it there. I'm hard to miss.
You're hard to miss. All right, then you need to take some vacation days and do it.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so season 1, I got to answer questions.
That's right.
The Pod.
You
But
got a
one
lot
of
of
my favorite things about season 2 was my guest gets to answer a question on the Pod. So, Zac, dig on in and see what we got.
We've got some options here, and
Yep,
what
we got
we've pulled out
options.
here.
What'd you get?
Which phone app do you think you use the most? All right. Well, I think that one's pretty easy for me. It would be Facebook. But I use Facebook for a lot of different things. I, of course, use it to stay in touch with my friends and stay connected and see what's going on there. But I also use it as the mayor. I've got a Facebook page, so I will share information out with people or talk about what's going on, or, again, just try to be the town social studies teacher in some ways and talk about some of those civics things. So yeah, I use it for a lot of different reasons, but it means that if there's one app that I'm probably pulling up on my phone, it would be Facebook. I was working at the university when Facebook first came out, and I can remember going to sessions at conferences with folks saying this will be the death of higher education as we know it, and social media will take us all down. And as a very young professional in the back of the room, I raised my hand and said, have you used it yet? And no, we haven't possibly used it.
Sure.
I think social media has a real opportunity to serve communities, to serve higher education in positive ways if we utilize it well. So a big fan.
So how can people connect with you on Facebook?
So for anyone who's looking to follow me as the mayor of Kirksville, they can just look for Mayor Zac Burden on Facebook, and that's where I'm at, and people can connect that way. Although I say the best way to get connected is still to do it in person, right? So if people want to send me an email and let's meet up. As the mayor, I don't have an office in City Hall. That's not the type of council we have. So when I meet with people, I tell them the mayor's office is the gazebo at Brashear Park. And so I think that's the best way to be able to do that is let's talk in person and really have a conversation about what your questions, ideas, and concerns might be for Kirksville.
Very cool. Zac, so much. I love your excitement, enthusiasm, and love for Truman and Kirksville and what you bring to both of those communities.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's pretty easy to get excited about some places that are so wonderful like Kirksville and Truman.
Well, thank you so much. You are always a joy and a pleasure, and thanks for being my guest.
You're welcome, Sue. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Tea Time with Sue. Subscribe to the podcast to stay in the know for when new episodes are released. Do you know students, faculty, and staff at Truman who make it such a unique and special place? Guests for Tea Time with Sue can be nominated at truman.edu/teatime. Join us in the next episode when Sue welcomes Tay Woods, a freshman psychology major with a minor in justice systems from St. Louis, Missouri.